And yes, so welcome everyone. A few of us are new to this our webinar series. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction before I then introduce our speaker for today. So the Society of Landscape Architects of Nigeria started a webinar series that is focusing on the practical nature, the practice of landscape architecture. A couple of weeks ago, one of our professors, Professor Tunji Adejumo, retired from academia, and in his exit lecture, he talked about the theory of landscape architecture. And this webinar series is an attempt to educate ourselves as landscape architects and also adjacent professions, the architects, the conservationists, heritage practitioners, urban planners, town planners, to educate us and each other about the practice of landscape architecture. We've had several, 3 different guests now, and they've talked about a variety of topics. And today we are going to be speaking with Femi Olanrewaju. Femi Olanrewaju is a distinguished landscape architect. He's also an architect and a passionate advocate for art and heritage preservation. With extensive expertise in religious building heritage, he will present a talk today titled The Preservation of Nigerian Cultural Heritage in the Digital Age. His work emphasizes the importance of understanding and interpreting cultural heritage through an African lens. Femi's achievements include leading the digitization of religious architectural heritage in Ibadan for the French Institute for Research in Africa, IFRA-Nigeria. Currently, he is collaborating with IFRA-Nigeria on the digitization and restoration of the New Culture Studio, an architectural masterpiece by Demas Nwoko. His dedication to merging traditional heritage with modern technology offers unique insights into preserving Nigeria's cultural identity in a rapidly evolving digital era. And it's very interesting also that this webinar is happening today because I'm currently at the Africa 24 conference, which is a conference organized by the ICOMOS Africa. So we have a few of our ICOMOS members here also in the call, and it's just very interesting for them to hear what Nigeria has been up to in terms of cultural heritage in the digitization era. So Femi, over to you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to start with an introduction from Professor Tunji Adejumo. He said, you cannot plan for tomorrow without an understanding of yesterday, today. And if you noticed the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, they all talked about sustainability. Then the question is, what is sustainability without preservation? We're starting with the introduction. Nigeria, just like the rest of the African nations, is quite rich in cultural and, of course, mineral resources. And over the years, about 3 decades, the concept of cultural heritage preservation has evolved over the years. Particularly in 1964, the Venice Charter limited cultural heritage to group of building, vernacular architectural and industrial built heritage. Cultural heritage is quite important for us to be able to understand and link our past with our present and our future. And recently, according to ICOMOS, cultural heritage is often expressed as either intangible or tangible cultural heritage. Tangible cultural heritage refers to the physical artifact produced, maintained throughout a society from generation to generation. And like I said earlier in the previous slide, UNESCO had focused only on the tangible cultural heritage, especially with the Convention Concerning Protection of the World Cultural and Natural Heritage of 1972 in Paris, where UNESCO adopted this convention. And over the years, the tangible cultural heritage has been focused on. This left intangible cultural heritage to be neglected until 2003 in the same Paris. UNESCO also adopted the Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage. As of today, these two conventions are what UNESCO has adopted, and they serve as legal basis for the protection of cultural heritage throughout the globe. So the preservation of cultural heritage calls for a sustainable approach. And presently, digital preservation seems to be the most rational method of safeguarding our cultural heritage. And this is just the summary of what I've just discussed. On the left is the tangible heritage prior to 2003 Convention in Paris. Cultural heritage was limited only to monuments, buildings, and sites. But as from 2003, intangible cultural heritage were added to the list of cultural heritage, which includes oral traditions, performing arts, social practices, rituals, festive events, just like we have in Nigeria, Egungun Festival, knowledge and practices concerning nature and the universe. This one of the things we have here is IFRA, the knowledge and skills to produce traditional crafts. This table was drawn from UNESCO heritage list. What UNESCO did, they divided the world into 5 regions, and Africa is a region. And I just want us, recently, when I was going through UNESCO sites, and it was quite shocking because out of 952 cultural heritage sites in the world, Africa has just 61. And out of these 61, Nigeria has 2, Ocean Grove and the cultural landscape, Suko in Adamawa. Natural sites throughout the world, there are 231. Nigeria has 0. Africa has 2. And on like that. So the question I asked myself, you said cultural heritage. Why are Africans less acknowledged internationally? I also ask myself the same question too. Does it mean that Nigeria has lesser cultural heritage compared to the rest of the world? Out of 952, we have just 2 in Nigeria. Onyema 2016 listed these 3 dimensions of cultural preservation over the years. The first one is the pre-colonial dimension. During this period, our cultural heritage were preserved in the palaces, and even to today, if you visit any palace, you will see a department where they can tell you the story of the town or village you are visiting. Also, among the heads of families, and most especially about religion, the priests do well with this. During the colonial administration, they introduced Western education. They also introduced Nigerian magazine. They created Nigerian Antiquity Service, NAS, and the Office of the Surveyor of Antiquities in 1943. And lastly, they created museum. Post-colonial era, NAS became National Commission for Museum and Monuments through the decree of 1979. And for me, I feel we are still stuck in the convention of the 1972, where we relegated cultural heritage to just tangible heritage. So I looked at what we have in our National Commission for Museum and Monuments, NCMM. You can check them on museum.ng. We have 52 national museums, of course, 2 World Heritage Sites, 65 national monuments, and on like that. And from this, we have not really expressed our cultural heritage since the adoption of the 2003 Convention on safeguarding the intangible cultural heritage. Briefly, I want us to look at some of Nigerian cultural heritage that we have. And I'll be using Yoruba as a case study of Nigeria. The first one is the language. I listened sometimes to late Professor Sophie Oluwole. She's so passionate about Yoruba language. And in this interview, she said, she asked a question, what is it? Television. And television is formed from two words, tele and visio. Tele is distance, distant, and visio is vision. So television, it's a distant vision. And if you ask me, this word does not capture scientifically that device. But you know what Yoruba call this device? They call it a Romun Mawuran, an audiovisual device. This captures this device more scientifically. And I remember when I was in primary school, I was beating blue and black. I'm sure some of us were also experienced that. They called Yoruba vernacular language. And recently, when I look at the word vernacular, language of the primitive, Fela did a song, Colonial Mentality. He said, we have been free, but we've not allowed ourselves to be free. You know, we also call our own language vernacular. And I want us to ask ourselves, among the world cultures that have developed over the years, how many of them are teaching in a foreign language? Look at Germany, France, look at Japan, Chinese, Russia. All of them are teaching in their native language. But here we have relegated our language, and it has really, really affected us. Late Professor Sophie Oluwole said, what we have in Nigeria is not education, it's literacy. And she has this to say, because she quoted in one of our publications of a research that was carried out by an European researcher who concluded that after the age of 6, European children are more knowledgeable than African children. But prior to that age of 6, African children are more knowledgeable than those of European counterparts. Do you know why? Because prior to the age of 6, usually we speak our native language to our children. So a child that is aware of what ed means in his native language, when he starts school, he will start learning ori ed, imunos, and that would pause and making a bit. Imagine switching it. When at the age of 6, bring a European child to, for example, to Ibadan or Ibadan, and start the medium of education in Yoruba, the child will perform woefully. And late Professor Fafunwa Aliu Babatunde Fafunwa also confirmed this on a project he carried out in Ile-Ife. He called it the Ife Primary Education Research Project. In fact, this project was cited in 2016 during the International Mother Tongue Day. He did a research for 6 years. He subjected students to native language, Yoruba, in Ife for 6 years. And he discovered that after these 6 years, learning the medium of education was Yoruba, that these students, these pupils, performed better than their counterpart that were taught with English language. He said that English is just a subject, just like French in some schools. Imagine teaching the class with French. It really affects the performance of the kids in class. So, and he advocated that English is just a subject. And in English class, let the means of education be English. And for the rest of the subjects, let the language be in Yoruba. Look at the days of the week and calendar. A lot of us, we have really lost touch with our cultural heritage. We've so much absorbed what has been shown to us. For example, Yoruba has 4 days in a week. And this is also, Igbo also have this too, but the Igbos tied theirs to market this, Afo, Eke, Nkwo, and Orie. But the Yorubas tied theirs to these 4 Orisha, Orunmila, Shango, Ogun, and Shango, Orunmila, Ogun, and the first one. Now, we have really relegated our own cultural heritage. For example, we are using the Gregorian, Roman Gregorian calendar. January is Janus. It's actually a god in the Roman mythology. And for example, Friday is named after Venus. She's also a god. Well, she was also a goddess. And I'm sure a lot of us will not really be happy if we are using this Orisha as number of days. Unfortunately, fortunately, the Isheshe adherents, they still use this counting system. Unlike, you might not know, they use Ose. So approximately in a month, a typical Yoruba has 7 weeks in a month. And Yoruba usually celebrate a new year, which coincides with the festival of Ifa around May and June of every year. And to the Yorubas, this is actually the beginning of the rainy season. And this is when everywhere is alive. The grains, the leaves are green. It's strange to the Yorubas, where you have to celebrate a new year, where everywhere is dry, dusty, hot, and the rest. Urban morphology. Adejumo 2024 stated that Ojoba was a Yoruba Central Business District, the CBD. Ojoba is usually located near the King Palace. And Yoruba have perfected this idea of landscape and ecology preservation. I begin to wonder there was nothing like climate change prior to this time, because Yoruba has a way of preserving nature. They have groups for Ifa, groups for Oshun, Igbo Ifa, Igbo Oshun, and Igbale, Egungun group. And with this, the nature is not abused like we are having now. And another very interesting cultural heritage is the modern maiden's name. I had this short discussion with Professor Tunji Adejumo sometimes, and when I had a similar discussion with the Araba of Osogbo, Chief Ifayemi Elebubon, on this same cultural heritage. A biological mother has the same appendage with Mother Earth. They both share mother. Now, when a biological mother gives birth, her blood and the fluid that took care of the child for for the number of months touches the ground. And when that happens, the earth automatically updates its database. So it is easier for a typical Babalawo to ask for the mother's maiden name, just like the archivist would do when looking for a particular file. And with this, a consultation can be done. But a lot of us, anyway, we see this in movies. When we are asked this, I mean, it sounds somehow to us, but then how many of us ask this question? What do they want to do with a modern maiden name in international passports, BVN, NIN, and a lot SSN, social security number, and all of that? The question is, we've really, really relegated what we have as heritage. And Yoruba too have also perfected herbal medicine. What is Western medicine without herbs? It's a chalk. There's a saying in Yoruba that it says, that what we eat is the source of our disease and illness. And there is also, and what we eat is actually from the herbs. And also there is a saying too that, so you when you're trying to solve a problem, you look at the root cause of the problem. So you treat herbal problems with herbs. Our fashion has evolved over the year, and you see a lot of people copying our dresses because this part of our heritage, a lot of us are still holding tight to it. And sometimes it was only allowed every Friday to wear our native wears. And for marriage, it's still boiled down to language. I heard someone sometimes said he just paid his dowry. A man, for example, what's the meaning of dowry? Dowry is what a bride is paid to the family of the groom. In Yoruba, we say, they pay the bride price, not dowry. So oftentimes you need to be very careful with our words, our language. Religion. There's a verse of IFA, according to Abimbola, who says that IFA deals with all subjects: history, geography, religion, music, and philosophy. In fact, late Professor Sophie Oluwole quoted Epoga, who also talked about IFA in a book, Socrates and Orunmila, two patron saints of classical philosophy. Epega said that IFA is not religion, but contains religion. IFA is not history, but contains history. IFA is not philosophy, but contains philosophy. IFA is not science, but contains science. So a lot of people has misquoted IFA to being the religion of the Yorubas. That is not true. Bolaji Dowu, when in his book, he said if the Yoruba religion believes in Eledumare, the supreme being, the Orisha, and the ancestors, Egungun. So when a lot of us are so, we are not usually, we don't want to even associate with Egungun or ancestors. I saw a couple of my friends in diaspora in the last Halloween day. What is Halloween? Halloween is masquerade. The West has a day dedicated for the masquerade, but a lot of us don't want to associate with whatever it is as. Our own is not good. Politics. Recently there have been advocates for women inclusiveness, gender equality. Over the years, the Yorubas have perfected this. The women were well represented in Yoruba politics. You hear Yellow Day, Yellow Ja. Even in the judiciary system, Erelu, Look at Ibadan, for example. They have a perfect system of perfect political system. I asked a friend of mine who studied political science sometimes because when I was a student of architecture, we were taught Yoruba traditional architecture, Igbo traditional architecture, and Hausa traditional architecture. I asked him if they were ever taught Yoruba political system, and he said no. And sometimes when we have problems, we have to look back to our past to see if there could be solution from some of these problems. Now, the current issues facing Nigerian cultural heritage. The first one is individual beliefs and disconnection. A lot of us don't want to, like I've been saying, don't want to associate ourselves with our cultural heritage. There's inadequate infrastructure and inexperienced manpower to preserve our cultural heritage. There's no adequate government support, weak policy and regulatory framework. This image on my right is the Lojoba. It was built by Casa de Fernandez, which was built in 1855 by one of the slave returnees from Portugal. After a while, he sold this building to late Chief Olaya, who named it Ilojoba. And after his death, the National NCMM, National Commission for Museum and Monuments, declared this beautiful a masterpiece as national monument. However, in 2016, Lagos State government demolished this. So we have a policy by the national and the state government found this same policy. It's really, really disheartening. Digital preservation, because over time, Mosetti said it is a process and activities that ensure long-term sustained storage of access to and interpretation of digital information. Most of us have been hearing the word digitization, some call it digitalization. Is the purpose of, it's just to ensure the protection of information so that they can endure their value, having access to by the future and by present generation and the future generations to come. So I want to cite few case studies of heritage preservation globally. I've used I divided this into two groups. One is the conventional preservation that some of us are familiar with. And the other one is how they've employed advanced technology and tools to do amazing preservation. The first one is international brands and logos. One of it is Hermes, a French brand. Who is an Hermes? Hermes is a god, and we are just to we rock Hermes bags, we rock Hermes shoe. If this were Oshun shoe, I'm sure most Yoruba, most Nigerians will not rock it. Maserati, they produce fine, nice cars. Maserati's logo is the trident of Poseidon. Nike, swoosh logo. Nike is also a goddess. The Nike actually represents the wing of this goddess. And we are rocking some of these designers, but we are quite still discriminating when it comes to what belongs to us. A lot of people have perfected preservation through games. I played this Subway Surfer when I was younger. And at a point, Subway Surfer was traveling from country to country. I remember coming to Kenya. They were showing a lot of monuments in Kenya. I think it also went to Johannesburg, and I remember Ethiopia. Another means of preserving our heritage is entertainment. Iwaju is a new series that is starting in Disney. Iwaju is a Yoruba word. It's about a younger lad in Lagos. Music. I saw a post on Twitter like last week where a Ghanaian was furious of how most Ghanaians have abandoned Ghanaian pidgin, that they have adopted Nigerian pidgin English. That before you know, instead of saying chale, they say omo. I don't want sha, japa, and all of that. We're like parasites, you know. And one of the things that have actually made this happen is our music, Afrobeat, and it is capturing people even with them not knowing. Also, movies, like a lot of Nigerians that I've seen, especially ladies, they know quite a number of things about the Korean. Some can actually even understand this Korean by mere watching Korean dramas and see what Indian movies. This is also a very good way of preserving culture. And Nigerians are doing very well too with Netflix and Nollywood movies. Another one is religious sites. A lot of every year, even our federal government pay for citizens to travel to Mecca, you know, taxpayer to travel to Mecca, to travel to Jerusalem, and if you will be shocked to notice how much these people make off every year from tourists. This is religious tourists. Documentaries, books, and journals. These are conventional means of preservation. Now, the first one, the first image, the bigger image, is the Night Watch painting. It's one of the renowned painting in the world. Over 300 years ago, this beautiful painting needed to be, it's about 3.6 by 4.2. This beautiful painting was meant to be hung in between two posts. So it was too large for it to fit in. And you would see a white frame, a white box. So they trimmed this beautiful image so as to make it fit to where it was meant to be hung. And then they never found the missing piece. This is about 2 feet. This portion from here to here is about 2 feet. So they've been wondering how this part can be reproduced. Not until more recently, through the help of AI, they were able to reproduce this image. You know, it's interesting. Iconem, you can Google them, iconem.com. One of the things they do is they preserve endangered cities, not only building endangered cities, monuments, and natural sites. On the lower right image, this is part of City of Venice. They captured over 300,000 images to have this 3D modeling replica of City of Venice. There was a time where Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris was engulfed in fire. Scientists, they used high-level tools to reproduce the drawing using 3D, using photogrammetry and AI to reproduce the drawing, the details. You by need to get to look at this on the YouTube. You appreciate how technology has advanced over the years. And in 1872, Ludwig van Beethoven died. He was one of the greatest symphony composer. So he was unable to finish his 10th symphony. 2021, they use AI to complete the symphony he started in 1872. It's quite interesting. This is, I'm localizing now, digital heritage project in Nigeria. So some of the things we achieved with IFRA-Nigeria project was we got high resolution imaging. We had 3D models, also enabling virtual tour of some selected religious heritage sites in Ibadan. We had digital reciprocities. We had metadata tagging because we want to have. I'm going to show us more about this in the next slide, where when you click a point on the map, you can have contextual data regarding that heritage site. We recorded audiovisual of Egungun, some selected heritage sites. We had VR and AR because we also worked on Benin Moat, the wall of Benin. So they produced a virtual tour, virtual experience of what the Benin Moat is like now. We mapped religious heritage sites, and we have online platform where users can interact with cultural heritage anywhere in the world of Nigeria. So like I said the other time, if you look at all of these points where I'm hovering my cursor, all these points are religious heritage sites in Ibadan. So like this one, there's a very tiny ring here. When you click this, you have a brief summary of the religious heritage sites. So we used GIS to map religious heritage sites, and we produced, I'm going to show us one 3D model of one of 4 selected religious sites. For some of us that are Christian, and even for some of us that are Nigerian, we would agree that the sound that is generated in Catholic Church, for example, is quite different from the sound generated from, say, Redeemed Christian Church of God. And from churches to churches, they have various musical instruments. So we just felt it's also important for us to also document and digitize the sound that are produced from some of these religious heritage sites. We wrote story maps. We wrote various stories. Story map is a feature in ArcGIS where you can write journals, articles with embedded interactive maps. And of course, we did a Google documentary showcasing the rich cultural heritage of Ibadan. We can scan this QR code when you can read some stories that were written some of these religious heritage sites in Ibadan. Now, on the lower right corner, this is one religious site in Ibadan, the Cathedral of St. James the Great, Okibola. This on the left is the 3D modeling of the same religious site. And this is the interior. I mean, you could see precast panels as the roof. We did this last year, 2023. And unfortunately, the church admin told us that they are considering changing this roof. One of the reasons they said is that it is quite expensive for them because the roof is really giving them issues. It's leaking when rain falls, and they are tired of felting it over and over. So then the question is, what do they want to change it to? And according to them, they said one of the reasons they have not done this huge project is the cost. Now, in maybe 30 years to come, whatever change, whatever color, whatever deterioration, we have a digital a bank for this religious site. Another interesting part of Yoruba cultural heritage is Egungun. Interestingly, in Ibadan, Egungun is celebrated in a two-day event every June, July of every month. There is the pre-night. This on the left we have an all-night event where they marry, dance, and people meet and prepare for the following day. The second day here is the outing of Egungun, where Egungun leaves the Ibale, and in a procession through the city of Ibadan. And on the right side is a clip where we did Egungun documentary. This is the custodian of Egungun Alapashopa, Alhaji Ashimiyu Ogundeji. So on the right side, we used GIS to map out the route of Egungun Alapashopa June 2024. I have I've zoomed into this portion here. So the red point here is the Ibale. This is where Egungun is dressed. And this is the compound of Ogundeji Alapashopa. So what happens here at this red pin, they make rites. I don't want to call it ritual. They make rites, she rites. So salt, palm oil, and a male goat is slaughtered. The Egungun Alapashopa is meant to step his left foot on it before the procession. Immediately after this, right, in 2024, it came here first. This is in the compound. It's a grave of one of their Ogundeji ancestors. He prays here. He came to this point again, still the family, he prayed, then moved out, and he came, paid homage here, and visited this family too, a chief. This blue line represents the route when Alapashopa left the Igbale. And the yellow is the route of his return back to Igbale. So here, he paid homage. Here, this is Ogun shrine of Egungun of the Egef family. He prayed here to Ogun, then passed through here and got to the residence of the Olubadan. This was the picture of the late Olubadan Balogun, may so rest in peace. In 2023, Alapashopa paid homage, and it's interesting for us to note that in Ibadan, Egungun is beyond masquerading. They have this to say about Egungun in Ibadan, that Alapashopa or Deolu Ibadan Fararo, that in every year, if Alapashopa doesn't visit the Olubadan, there will not be peace in the land. And Alapashopa is the only Egungun in Ibadan that weep Olubadan 3 times. He prays for Olubadan, and Olubadan in turn gives in various gifts. So it stops over here, very close to Uje, one of the chiefs of Ibadan, and took this different route and returned back to this red pin Igbale, where the masks are kept for the next year. And it is interesting that we have some of these things happening around us. Another case study is that fact that one of also the project that we did too is we looked at some of the masks that are in the Museum of Lagos, we have quite unique mask in Lagos. So we invited some artists, Ifunanya Madufo. So because most of what the media is showing our kids, they're showing them superheroes, Ben 10, PJ Mask, and the rest. So people, our kids, our children are intrigued, and they are welcoming. They know most of these superheroes. But here in Africa, we just felt we should find a way to make some of our cultural heritage appealing. So Ifunanya Madufo came with this beautiful idea where I'm only showing brief works that she did, where she introduced comics and want to make some of our masks into superheroes and animation too. And I think this is also a brilliant idea too, so that we can also promote our cultural and intangible cultural heritage, through the media. And we can see that the adoption of 2003 will favor Africa more, because most of our heritage are rooted in our oral tradition. It's a period where we have to shift away from monumentalists, like America and the rest of the world, where they have a lot of monuments. We don't have we are not better than these people when it comes to preservation of tangible cultural heritage. But with this new 2003 convention, it will be easier for it is a win-win for Africa, because we have more of intangible cultural heritage. And I also want to conclude that intangible heritage should be made incarnate, so that visible signs, just like what I showed you that time, can be made in form. Intangible heritage can be made visible, so that they can be, for example, like the comic and animation that Ifunanya Madufo proposed, and translating intangible heritage into materiality, from oral form into some form of materiality. This will really, really go a long way in ensuring that our cultural heritage is preserved. I want to end this presentation with one IFRA verse that says, Ashadanu, Ashadanu, lọ́mọdé ń ṣa òkúta ilé bàbá ẹ̀, tí ó bá pẹ́ ilé wọn á di ahoro, ọ̀dẹ̀dẹ̀ wọn á di àkìtàn. If we don't value and respect what we have as heritage, very soon we'll have nothing left of us as civilization. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Femi. And I really, really enjoyed this presentation. As a Yoruba girl myself, it's really great to be able to hear some parts of my history and my culture that I didn't even know myself. So and again, for me, as a landscape architect, is like, I'm going to get to some questions that I have to ask you personally, but please, if you have any questions, please, if you don't want to speak, you can drop them in the chat. I already have one question to ask you, and please drop your questions. So first of all, someone asked in the chat, Chilangwa Chiawa asked that when you were talking about the challenges, can you elaborate a bit on the lack of infrastructure? She didn't get some of the things you said, so just elaborate a bit on what you mentioned about lack of infrastructure, on the challenges that we face.
Okay. Infrastructure. For example, when we needed to work on some of this project, especially the 3D modeling, we had to invite Iconem all the way from France to Nigeria. They helped us digitized selected religious sites, and they also trained Nigerian researcher on how to use some of these tools, softwares, in doing this. So if we had very strong personnel who can do this, then why do we have to go to France? And when they came, they brought very sophisticated cameras where you have to be comfortable to own some of these tools for digitization. And so it is not really cheap when it comes to digitization. You have to store and host data. Like I said the other time, when City of Venice was scanned, over 300,000 images were used to produce that section of the city. Now, the question, and these pictures have to be high quality, high resolution images so that you'll be able to appreciate the details. So now, what now happens when we don't have, having a powerful storage facility to keep all of this, you have to reach out to foreign tech companies to host your website and all of that. So we are really having issues with this infrastructure in preserving our cultural heritage in the digitally. Do I answer that?
Thank you very much. Yes, I do believe that you did. Please, if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself now, or you can put it in the chat box, and Femi will be able to answer you. I think for me, right, so I wanted to ask, let me just quickly ask my question before anybody else probably goes ahead. So as a landscape architect, I know that you have a degree in landscape architecture and also in architecture, and I wanted to ask, like, how does your educational degree in landscape architecture particularly inform your practice, as a heritage practitioner right now? Some of the things I was looking at was the route that you mapped for the Egungun Festival. And my question is, how has landscape architecture, informed the kind of decisions that you make as a heritage practitioner now?
Okay. One of the tools I learned or I acquired as a landscape architecture student was the use of GIS, and I'm forever grateful to Professor Tunji Adejumo. Professor Tunji Adejumo, thank you very much for what you did for us back then. So whenever I have a project like this, I always look at how it is easier when you have the whole world on your system. It is quite interesting and really easy when you have the whole world on your laptop. So I always look out on how, because that is even what is trending globally. People make use of GIS. They use GIS to solve crime. They use GIS for power line. They use GIS for so many things. So why will cultural heritage be exempted? There are so many questions that can pop up from that map alone. Some people might be interested in the number of kilometers that the Google covered. Some people might be interested in comparing how the route was maybe 2003, because we had a different Olubadan then. And this route is usually influenced by Olubadan. And to 2020, 2025, the route is still going to change because they just inaugurated the new Ibadan, Olubadan Palace in Ibadan. And the route is going to change 2025. So, we can do a lot of analysis. You can do comparison. You can do, people can write a lot of, this is open for debate and and further research. So for architecture, while we were working on what define heritage, I remember I took a course back then as a student of architecture called architecture preservation. And Professor Sasono gave us a three list. Then the period you want to consider the first church, the first mosque in Ibadan. You don't want to. You also want to make sure that you feature churches, various denominations in the selection. And for me, very interestingly, I looked at this mosque. This image on my right hand. This is quite interesting for me because this exemplifies Nigerian Afro-Brazilian architecture. This is not really common in mosque designs. So these are some of the things when, as an architect and as a landscape architect, I see some of this in a different perception. Do you get that?
Yes, yes.
All right, thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Femi. Kabal, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question, or should I just ask it for you? Kabal has a very interesting question that I would really like to hear you. I have my own thoughts, but yeah, I would really like to hear hear your answer. So he says, from a cultural heritage perspective, what have you seen to be the equivalent of contemporary urban park systems that foster social interaction?
Okay. For me, first, I will recommend a book, Design Essence by Professor Tujin Adejumo. A lot of times we copy so many things. I've seen quite a number of bus parks in Nigeria. They end up being a place where madmen, I'm sorry for that word, where they sit, they are abandoned. We don't design based on our culture. I see people. So there was a time when I was, because I still practice as an architect too. There was a project we did, and it was shocking for me that the client actually imported plant. He imported plants from South Africa, where we are so used to importing everything, and at the end of the day, they don't really serve. They don't really serve us. Now, look at what I just said. Now, look at the crowd. Where is the picture? During the festival, look at the crowd that were following Igualapa Shopper. And the queue it's so long. I wish I had the area image to show how this thing is. And this is one of the ways we can design our urban form. We could have laybys. We could have one of the things. What does Igualapa Shopper did? I did my thesis when I in landscape architecture was conservation of cultural heritage landscape of Osun Grove. I did similar things like this, and I proposed because it is certain every year Aruba, the rotary maid carries atonement from the palace to the grove, and this is how we can design our parks. We can design our course in such a way that it aligns, so that even when there are events like this, people are already used to some of these parks. Do I answer that question?
Yes, I do think so. But if Kaba would like to, elaborate a bit more and talk about it, then maybe you should unmute his mic. Okay, but in the meantime, Sheon Bogwade, you have your hand raised. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, so thank you, Femi, for the presentation. That's a very wonderful presentation. So my question now is how can we as landscape architects promote this our cultural heritage? And I will just cite some example. Practically, I've witnessed situation where we have our local people, they have this even though we have just named it black power, we just have a way to just demoralize our cultural thing where they shoot. It has happened in my presence, not once, not twice. And you just find out that when they shoot and the bullet will just fall down and it won't affect them. And the white man will now still come to this place and sell a bulletproof that cannot even protect your head. But if they shoot you, if they have this, what we call jazz, if they put it on their body and they shoot, the gun will not pass through. Whether it's AK-47, it won't go through. And this is what I've experienced. And we keep talking about insecurity in the country, and you just find out that we still go back to the white man's idea of buying security, or you want to secure yourself, you buy a security vest to protect yourself from gun. When we have local knowledge that have carved out ways to solve problem of insecurity by having a kind of protection for themselves. Now, these are basic knowledge that's been there. These are basic practices that have been there for years, but they have made us demoralize this knowledge instead of having people that will come out with innovative idea to make this knowledge more research robust and also solve our problem. So what do you think we can do? Because I believe this knowledge, this cultural heritage can help us a lot, because they are there. There's no new thing these people are doing to us that have not been done even in a better way before now. So what do you think we can do?
All right, thank you very much, Shin. I have had interactions with some European researchers, most especially French researchers, because I work, of course, with a French research institute. One of the things I noticed about them is that when they come to Nigeria, the first thing they do is that they see our cultural heritage, they see Nigeria, they perceive Nigeria with an open mind. And that is what a good researcher need first. So I'm a Christian. Normally, I shouldn't be doing this according to some beliefs. Do you understand? But the first thing is that you have to be open-minded. You want to see what Babalawo is sitting when you sit in his stead. You understand? Enough of this Eurocentric approach to our things. Enough. Look at Egungun. A lot of people will be very angry that they are obstructing, they are not allowing them. Whereas US declared a day for Egungun, Halloween day. They declared a day for Egungun, and everybody were at home. People bought masks, people bought costume, and they were on the road. And the same African man that condemned Egungun back home, I saw quite a number of them. UK is now Nigerian Alex. I saw quite a number of my friends, folks, wearing Halloween costume. I was like, wow, what you would literally not want to associate yourself with in Nigeria. So the first thing is to have an open mind, and we'll keep advocating, until we have this, and it is quite funny how these European researchers are doing very well when they come here for research. For example, this is even quite tense. it's not really tense as one egungun also that I documented last year, egungun afidelege. That day, I saw quite a number of people, they are making incisions and all of that. And somebody asked me, Mr. Femi, are you prepared for this kind of outing? I said, yes. He now asked me, am I fortified? I was like, fortified? For me to follow Egungun? So, and I asked him, he said, no, you can't follow us because you have to be fortified. Okay. And I asked him, what can I do? He said, he listed options. I don't know, no, I don't want incisions and all of that. So he gave me a wool. He said I should hold on to it, that I will appear not invincible. I will not look interesting for people, probably maybe to steal from me or to harm me. Do you understand? And I took it. And at the end of the day, the whole thing went on smoothly. In fact, do you know, it was even a Babalawo that quoted this verse of the Bible. I'm sure you are a Christian. Hosea 2:22. He said, in the last day, the earth will respond to grain. The earth will respond to grain, palm oil, and oil, we call it oil, wine, and Jezreel. Jezreel is synonymous with blood. And these are the four things that the Isheshe adherent uses for atonement, sacrifice, and all of that. Look at sacrifice, for example. You'll find grain, you'll find epo, palm oil, you find oil, wine, and sometimes blood. Look at, I'm sorry for deviating. A typical Oba morphology, the Yoruba king palace is meant to face the east, and east is very, very strong. We can research more on east. This is where the Muslim faces when they are praying. This is where they face. And there's also a passage in Bible, I think Matthew 2:1 and 2, that wise men, they saw a star in the east. But because it is Isheshe, when you say do this, no, but sometimes, we are happy to do it because of the perception, our view towards some of these concepts. So the first thing starts from advocates and community engagement. I remembered, for example, the first image on my slide, the introductory, yes, this house is at Onesabi in Ibadan here. So when I got to this house, I went to one elderly man there and I asked him, wow, I like this house. Can I take a picture? And he looked at the house like, what is special about it? I said, this is a very fine house. And he looked back at the house and I was wondering, what is so special about this house? So, and I took my time, to explain to him how beautiful, how nice this building is to us. And at the end of the day, to some extent, I was able to convince him. And we had a lot of engagement with the community while we're doing, especially the 3D scanning, because we have to fly drone. So we have to explain the local, the community, why we have to fly drones, the importance of the process that we were doing. So, this project, religious architectural heritage, actually opened a lot of people's eyes and mindsets towards heritage preservation. Is that fine? Sure.
Sure, I hope that answers your questions. I have, I think Tadese raised his hand earlier, but I don't know if he still wants to ask his question. Yes.
Hello.
Hello, yes, we can hear you.
Good afternoon or good evening from Mombasa. So normally what my question is first I have to appreciate the presenter. It's a very impressive presentation, and thank you for that. Coming to the question, what does African heritage mean to you? You know, always as far as there is interaction between different countries, whether call it colonialism or other business communication, there is influence. So whenever we deal with heritage, there are different types of heritage, but we share a common heritage. That means heritages are the property of all mankind. That's what we say. But how our African heritage are handled and Western heritage are handled are different. So, in your opinion, what does African heritage mean specifically? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. For me, that is like a contribution and also a question. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, like I said earlier, the first problem we have is our perception to what we call heritage. That is the first problem we have. And what we rebuke, what we reject back home when we travel out to Western nations, we approach them. We are glad to identify to them. For example, I was showing you some logos and brands. These are actually named after some gods and goddesses, but we will not be sure. For example, like I said, January is named after Janus. Janus is actually a double-faced god. Friday is Venus, goddess. So, for example, someone that is born on Friday of January, it's actually in Yoruba, Olorisha. But, probably the Friday falls on probably Obatala's day or Ogun's day. We will not want to associate with such Orisha. But, we are flaunting cultural heritage of the West. We are flaunting it. We buy, we drive, everything around us. It's about like I said, Fela said we have been freed. Colonial mentality. You can listen to that song. He said we have been freed, but we have refused to be free. So everything which we need to stop this. And again, our government, they are not doing well. Sometimes I talked about okay, here, according to Onyema 2016, during the colonial administration, they introduced Western education. More specifically, they added history to our curriculum then. What happened now? Our curriculum has been shattered. We don't know about our past. So a man that doesn't know about his past, I'm not sure the future is heading to. So it all starts from us, and it is the nearest future. It is we that is going to be at the helm of affair of our politics in the nearest future. So when we have this kind of mindset, we'll be sure to remove history. We'll be sure to remove heritage, so to say, from our curriculum when we have to pass bills at the national level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a wonderful answer. I reflect about this question because If you remember recently, the Notre Dame has caught in fire, and
Yes.
within less than 24 hours, about $2 billion have been collected. But that $2 billion is a lot to the whole of Africa. So always we have to respect our own heritage. We have to know about our heritage. Nobody has to tell us about our heritage. And we have to research and we have to fund our heritage by ourselves, Africans for Africans themselves. Just I wanted to pass this message. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Tadese. Very quickly, Olakunle Makinde, please, you can unmute yourself and ask your question or your comments. Thank you. Please unmute yourself. You are still muted.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
loud and clear.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and Mr. Femi, the great architect. Thank you very much. Just a quick contribution. I'm sorry I joined this webinar late. I was on transit from Ilorin to Osogbo tonight. So, firstly, I want to commend the speaker once again. I don't know what brought about the point he made concerning Osun Group. I was the site manager from 2010 to 2018 by divine providence. Before I was transferred to Abuja, I was the site manager for 8 good years. So the comment he made of just contribution, is I want to highlight that there are certain things you can do within the core zone of the Osun Group. There are certain things you cannot do. There are certain things you can do in the buffer zone. So I wouldn't know, why my friend Femi said something about Aruba part and all that. There are minimal restoration that you can do because the nomination dossier has already been submitted to UNESCO. And from time to time, there is a periodic report that are submitted. So I am sorry if I am not contributing in line with what he said, or, as a landscape architect. I am an archaeologist and a heritage site manager. And in fact, with nostalgic feelings, when my brother from Mombasa was talking, I was in Kenya, in Mombasa for 3 months. That's Fort Jesus Museum for a training program. So most of these corrections or restoration that you want to see happen may not happen because the core zone of the buffer zone have been recorded and documented with UNESCO. That's the World Heritage Authority. So you cannot do anything that you like, or you can suggest, but it may not happen. That is just the point. Then secondly, while I'm still commending the speaker, I wouldn't know whether he talked about Yoruba traditional palaces, because these are, it pains me so very, much, because most of these palaces are going. Efanlaye, Ado-Ekiti, some places in all over Yoruba land, you discover that most of our traditional palaces are gone. So I wouldn't know whether our brother talked about it, because when you look at the volumes 1, 2, 3 of An Introduction to Nigerian Traditional Architecture by Z.R. Muchoski, you discover that a lot of work has been done, as a spade achievement. But are we building on the work of those Polish architects and all other foreigners who have worked in Nigeria? So that is my question, second point and question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I only made mention of Osun Group because I said my thesis was about Osun Group. I'm sure when you see me, you will probably recognize me. I came to Osun Group a couple of times then. And what I said even in my works, I did not, in my thesis, I did not do any damage. I did not propose any damage. For example, one of the things I remember I proposed was tree naming. You understand? There are quite a number of trees that you might not find anywhere in Osun State that are only located in the groove. So one of the things I proposed then that we can do a tree naming. That one is not a big deal. You're not destroying anything. Then I also talked about is that there's a part where the Votri Aruba follows from the palace through from the palace to the groove. So I propose that there could be one or two intervention that could be done, on that route, not within the groove, because I'm aware that you can't do anything serious that is not in alignment with the dossier that has been submitted. Secondly, I can't probably talk about in fact, I don't even know all the cultural heritage that we have in Nigeria. With this, I was given 30 minutes, and I try as much as possible to ensure that I maintain that 30 minutes. Thank you very much for that point that you raised. Our palaces too, like I said, in this particular slide, palaces used to be a place where cultural heritage were preserved in the past. And I actually made mention of palace then, because even till now, I've only privileged to visit like 3 palaces. So there always a section. You see a man or a woman who tells you a story about that town, about that villages, and gradually look at the picture images of the previous palaces in Ilesha, Akure. Gradually all this architecture are eroding. We have a courtyard system where when you are within the courtyard, one of the primary function of courtyard is to collect rainwater. But beyond that, it is there's what happened in the courtyard. That is where you can commune with the heavens. It is a Yoruba thing, and gradually, they are building fanciful palaces. No more regards for our philosophy, and that is what Professor Tunji Adejumo has been advocating, where he came up with the concept of Enindilogun design philosophy. That our philosophy, he said, most architecture and buildings in Nigeria, they don't have philosophy. What they only start from concept. There's nothing. A friend of mine recently, I saw his post. He said a client approached him to design a sitting room, a Japanese sitting room theme. So I was wondering, so even Japanese has a theme for the sitting room. Who do us like this? We don't have a philosophy. We don't have philosophy anymore. We are just everywhere copying. We want to be we are the best in copying. Whereas a lot of people are coming back to learn. Most of the books, early books about us, were written by foreigners, foreign researchers, and it's quite appalling that we are still here. So thank you so much again for that beautiful comment. It really showed that you joined late. I trust you are in Oshobo. Do you understand it right now?
I'm in Oshogbo.
Oh, great.
We can still connect. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olakunle Makinde, for your comment. And again, so like I mentioned, I am currently at the Africa 24 conference, which is organized by ICOMOS Africa and the Emerging Professionals Working Group. And a lot of the conversations, and one of the major key takeaways I'm taking out of this is that we need to do our own research it's very, very, very important. Someone has already brought he has brought up the topic of several palaces that are going into extinction and deteriorating. Only Femi cannot do all that research. There's so much work to be done, and there's not enough heritage practitioners' hands to do this work. And I think that, for me as a person and a landscape architect and heritage practitioner also, is like, it's very, very important that we spend, our time doing research into our own cultures. Start from your family history. That is somewhere to start from, and then you take it up from there. I have one very quick question for you, Femi, because I know that the time is, going so fast. But my question is, one of the challenges you mentioned was about the cultural disconnection. And going back to this digitization work that you're doing, my question is, how is this digitization helping bridge the gap, between that cultural disconnection that we have today, especially with some of our millennials and our Gen Zs? There's a huge disconnection in our culture with, with that generation, the millennials, the Gen Zs, and, the generations after that. So how is this digitization bridging that gap?
Okay, thank you very much, Toby. First, when we started this project, because of course, I could, like you said, I can't possibly do all of these things. I visited over 100 Ojubo shrines in Ibadan. And why was that? Why that? We actually engaged some researchers, and one of the researchers we worked together is also in attendance here. And some researchers were biased. Some were avoiding the Gen Zs. They were avoiding visiting shrines. No, I can't. Blood of Jesus. So by the time we have some of these footprints, some of this cultural heritage in and this is an era of phones and internet, a lot of social media. So when you now digitize some of these things, when it is now in media form, at least it is now easier for it to be, it is now accessible, easier than when you have to physically visit some of these shrines. So, like also the last slide before the concluding part of the slide too, is that we are trying to also, it's just an eye-opener where some of our more popular popular masquerade, some of them are orishas, can be turned to hero. We said Ifa is the god of wisdom, Oshun, river goddess, synonymous with fertility, Ogun, technology, and the rest. So we can do, a lot of things can be done. But the primary thing is, when you have it in digital form, and you'll be amazed on how a lot of people can actually engage with some of this digital platform and present something unique out of some of this digital footprint that have been produced. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Femi. Does anybody else have any other questions? There were some comments in the chat, Amos, our SLAM president, who has left the chat just now, the webinar, has, talked about how it's very important for us to be able to create this research and share it, especially with our state liaison offices. There's also the comment about how, as landscape architects, we can diversify our research into cultural landscapes, preserving our vegetation, trees, and saving them from extinction. cultural heritage doesn't really speak much about landscapes around the architectural structure. And that is what me personally am actually trying to do as a cultural landscape practitioner, is focusing on the entirety of the site and not just the buildings. Again, which is what, Femi even talked about just now about the Venice Charter, and the fact that the Venice Charter is focused on the building heritage. And so this conversation is very interesting, because again, keying into what's happening currently at the Africa 24 conference, and these conversations about how, as Africans, as Nigerians, we should be doing our own research, because while it's great that they are coming in from the West to do research, there are some things that they wouldn't understand, and it's not even for them to understand. It's for us to understand and know, because it is our thing. In Yoruba, we say tiwa tiwa, it is our thing. So we should focus on, doing our own research. And I know that there's so many other challenges. This brings up a conversation about, other challenges regarding, especially in terms of funding, grants and all of that. But I do think that there are also ways to work around it. We will not continue that conversation today. We can continue that conversation about these challenges on that aspect another day. But somebody has just raised their hand. Very quickly, just short and sharp, please. Abdullahi Ahmed Musa, please unmute yourself and make your comments or questions.
Thank you very much. I want to first of all commend the presenter, Mr. Femi. It was a wonderful and insightful presentation. My question is on the issue of intellectual property and digital rights. In the course of your presentation, you were most hammering on this issue of digitization and what have you. So I want to know, how can this digitization heritage preservation initiative balance the need for protecting intellectual property rights with the goals of, yes, I just want to know, because, it's very critical.
All right. Thank you very much. I just checked the charts, and I saw a contribution by one of our colleagues that work together, Mary Otu, where she said, grants, that is where grants is necessary. We work together on this project, Religious Architectural Preservation of Ibadan. So she understands what the project meant. Now, because of the fact that the project was sponsored by was a FSPI, that is French, the Fund for Solidarity and Innovative Project, FSPI. One of the things they expected after the project is to make it open access, so that researchers can engage with them. But sometimes too, what is the essence where you have to do all of these things and you hoard it, you keep it at home? I mean, for me, we are not really doing what it is meant to be done on it. So when we are preserving, for example, look at music, for example. Fela Anikulapo started what he called Afrobeat. And there are a lot of musical artists then, Juju, Apala, and all of what have you. But it is Afrobeat that is trending, that is making wave. Unlike the rest, Juju, Apala, they are not trending. I mean, quote me, they're not trending like Afrobeat. So when we are talking about cultural preservation, what is the essence of preserving our heritage when we don't want to have them preserved and make it open access so that people can actually engage with them? Because this is even the one of the essence of preserving the cultural heritage in the first place. However, there are digital rights which vary from country to country. I had a conversation sometimes with the Commissioner for Information and Culture, Dr. Wasiu Olatunbosun, and we talk about some of these things. You know, by the time you also for some people, you know, because artists, musical artists, they make money from even what they are doing right now. So how would a typical or an average Nigerian make money from this? So there's a way. One is through probably maybe documentaries. If you have, for example, Netflix has a standard for documentary format, so you can approach them, and of course, when you invest in it, when you host this on Netflix, you get returns. YouTube is also the same thing. So we have rights, and that is what France, the French Institute did when they gave these grants. When they released this grant, that in Nigeria they want it to be open access, and trust me, it's an expensive endeavor. It was quite expensive. Thank you.
Thank you for the response.
Thank you very much. So does anybody else have any questions now? If not, so just a few other housekeeping rules. This webinar will be available later this week. I just want to quickly share a link to where you can find it. It's going to be on Society of Landscape Architects of Nigeria's YouTube channel. So please be on the lookout for it. So also, I want to thank Omar Gardens for their support. I want to thank Architecture and Urbanism Hub of University of Lagos for their support. And I also finally want to thank IFRA-Nigeria for their support of for this webinar. If we do not have any questions at this moment, I want to thank you all for joining and have a very lovely evening. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.